Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans. Welcome to Chapter 262. Is that what it is, fellas? 262 of
Something
Rule
like
the
that.
Yeah, that's it.
262. Chapter 262 of Rule the Galaxy podcast. Tonight, it's me, DDoc, hosting the show. Tonight, Joe is, I'm pretty sure, at some kind of NFL draft party tonight. So
Yeah, with the Steelers, because his son is doing some of their like hosting and or doing some work with the Steelers, so he's tagging along because that's what you get to do when you're the father.
Yes, and I
That's right.
listened to Joey's podcast, These Guys, and in their latest
Mhm.
episode this week, they said that Joe won a Steelers jersey off of Twitter, off of one of those like comment and win a free Steelers jersey, and Joe won a free Steelers jersey.
Wow, that's
And,
awesome.
and it's a Russell Wilson jersey too.
That's
No
hilarious.
way.
Yes. So we need to see
What-
Joe next podcast episode. I need Joe in the Russell Wilson jersey. Let Russ cook. Let Joe cook. Put
He
him
needs a
in.
Justin Fields jersey though. I think he should go with the Justin Fields jersey.
I think Russ is going to be back this year. Well, some of this football talk is happening because, as many listeners might know, tonight is the NFL draft, and Brent's team just drafted a quarterback. Brent, how are you doing tonight? And what are your thoughts on your quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, the future of the franchise?
So Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ritter, Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix. They're looking and stretching to try to find somebody to replace somebody. I don't know. They drafted Desmond Ritter like third overall, I feel like, or so, it was really high 2 or 3 years ago from Cincinnati, and he kind of the pot on that one. So you seem confused and perplexed by that, Doc.
Well, because I just remembered that the Falcons got Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
and he's getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah,
I don't know why you would.
That's why I said I'm not so high on the pick, Doc. Like I don't.
That's
know
a terrible pick.
I know. Well, I don't know if it's a terrible pick. Like he's a good talent, right? He's a young talent. He is a mobile dual threat quarterback. I live in Indiana. I went to IU. Michael Penix Jr. went to IU for 3 years and got into 2 or 3 knee surgeries.
Wow.
Yeah, he was an IU guy and like had 2 like season enders. And then his coach went out to Washington and he followed his coach out to Washington and had 2 really good years with Washington. I'm not down on him. I'm just saying I don't know. Yeah, you forgot about the Kirk Cousins trade overall. Yeah,
I don't know how I forgot about that. I'm like, that makes sense for the Falcons. They need a quarterback. And then
no, they don't.
Right when you said Kirk Cousins, I was like, wait a second. They just traded for him.
Yep.
Yeah, they just had his injuries up on the screen. He's torn his right ACL twice, and he's dislocated both of his shoulders, which took him out like for 4 years.
I'm not taking anything from his talent. He's a good player, but I would rather have Gardner Minshew. I would rather have Kirk Cousins and Gardner Minshew.
Georgia sports teams are traditionally. We've got Steve
Lawson
in the comment.
Right, Steve? I mean, well, Georgia professional teams, except for the Braves. And then you got the Georgia Bulldogs. So I don't know if you can call them a disappointment.
And we've got Adam Parker in the comment section as well. And
going on, Adam.
And right before I get to saying hello to Alfie right now, we just want to say, we're starting to share shorts on YouTube pretty consistently here. Joe's posting them up. They're getting views. I mean, the first one Joe posted was the famous Alfie wiping his you-know-what story. So
it's after dark. You can say ass.
Yeah, yeah, Alfie wiping his ass. So, we're starting to put a little bit more content out there. And, Brent, give them the spiel. Tell them what they need to subscribe to.
I mean, seriously, if you're watching us, I believe Glosson and Parker, you guys know the deal. You guys are on there. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it out, make a comment, do anything you can to get this algorithm out there to the people. We want to make sure that everybody gets this, hears this, and is able to share it out so we can get this party started with more and more people. But I mean, our hardcore regulars, we love you, Steve. We love you, Parker. Dr. Squatch, I'm sure will show up at some point too. But Yeah, like, subscribe, send it out. If you're watching this later, please like, subscribe, shoot us a comment.
Hit that notification bell.
I mean, we're on TikTok a little bit, but we're still slow on TikTok because our TikTok plumber over there is busy building Lego and doing plumbing gigs.
Yes, and watching random movies, which I'm continuing that streak this week. I'll bring up the movie I watched last night a bit later.
Can't wait to hear about this.
Yes. Alfie, how are you doing? You've been teasing something to us. I have no freaking clue what it is, and I don't know if you're going to drop it now or later. But
I don't know. We'll just see. We'll just let it play out and see if you figure it out. I mean, I really can't believe you haven't figured it out yet, but that's okay.
Oh, wait, I see it.
Oh, you got a tattoo?
Yes, I did actually. Oh, it's in mirrored. So yes, I got that one. So the rebel symbol
for news.
Well, that's part of it, and then the other part was this one.
Oh, no way! Isn't that the one you were gonna get in ICC a couple years ago?
Yeah, I got that Saturday.
Okay.
Oh my gosh!
So
Can we get a bit of a closer? Oh my gosh!
So we got a phase 1 clone, we got a phase 2 clone, we got a stormtrooper,
and then we've got a first order,
and then a first order trooper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised you went with the first order trooper.
Well, I mean, it kind of all went together, so
right. I mean, it's the
progression.
Generations go.
Yeah. So now what you need to do as times go on, if we see any new versions of these stormtroopers, you're gonna have to just keep adding on to it.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm gonna add Mandos right here in my arm.
Speaking of, are we gonna get into Bad Battery? Should we get into the Bad Battery?
We can right away if you want.
Because I believe the stormtroopers are different. There is a different helmet on the stormtroopers in the Bad Batch than there is on your arm. Are you like?
Yeah, because they are the TK troopers.
So that's different than the TK-421. Why aren't you at your post?
I don't know. I should have looked this up earlier, but they refer to them as TK troopers and not stormtroopers.
Right, because they have more of like a hard. It's like a double shell helmet almost, where like it's like a concussion cap on top of their helmet, where it comes down over their eyes.
Yeah, TK stormtroopers. Shortened name of TK troopers were an early generation of non-clone stormtroopers who served the Empire.
Okay.
So I would imagine they kept the number going forward, but yes, the armor changed.
Okay, which is also the distinction between, because you have the clone commandos walking around on Tantus, and you have you haven't seen them in a while, but Wolf was running around out on Tantus as well.
Yeah, I think he's in trouble. We haven't seen him for a while.
Well, I mean, he let the package get away.
That is true.
See, I feel like that is one of the many open-ended stories that needs to be concluded in the last episode of this show, you know? I don't know. It's like I kind of watched this episode and I'm like, man, it was set up number 3, I feel like, in a row, you know?
Don't we need Rex to come back too? Because like, if I remember correctly, in the Bad Batch, they went to Boca Raton, they picked some people up, and then Rex came back, and then they took off in that big ship, and Echo went off with Rex and Cody, I believe.
No, and Cody still hasn't come back since season 1?
Since he walked off from that fight. Yeah, it might have been season 2. Because I think it was
the Wall of Geonosis Memorial. They've been teasing this season that Echo and Rex are off doing something. So you would think eventually
Echo came back.
Find out.
Yeah,
Echo came back because they needed the Swiss Army tool, you know.
Right. They needed his R2 gadget.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I didn't like about that episode was that, you know, he's been gone the whole season. No, the episode before. Been gone the whole season, and you bring him back basically to open some doors. I'd like a little bit more for some character development with Echo, because you think eventually he's got to have some kind of end.
Well, I mean, not only did he open doors this time because he did, but he also wore stormtrooper armor.
Yes, he did.
Just like all the
stormtrooper armor,
just like all the Rebels cast and every other disguise in the Star Wars world.
This episode had almost all of the Filoni cliches
tropes
in it. Yeah, the stormtrooper armor, a giant monster that kills the bad guys but not the good guys, and even set up a future big monster to kill the bad guys but not the good guys.
You know it. Now, here's a question I have, and I think we should just jump all around for this episode. The monster they run into in the woods, is that a fully grown version of Batcher, do you think, or is that a totally different
I think it's a totally different, because it had like, I would say, like jungle patterned, fur, or and it didn't it stand on two legs and chase them?
It kind of reared up on two legs. Yeah, I got it playing off on the side right now, and that's exactly where we're at. Yeah, it's got more of like a lizard than a big, but yes, it like rocked back like a Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna come out and say, like, and I enjoyed a Bad Batch, and I'm not trying to bash on it, but I was pretty disappointed with the ending of this episode. Like, I expected more to happen this episode, other than them to just like get onto the planet and just like kind of be there and be like, people know we're here. And then Omega says, I know what I'm going to do, but you really kind of just don't still. And we've known that she's going to formulate a plan for a couple weeks now. And it's just kind of like stringing it out. And I just feel like there's a lot that needs to be solved this last episode. And I know that next week I'm going to be sitting here saying that the final episode was an absolute banger and that I bought into it.
That's the thing that really, just gets to me about these last few episodes is they're really good. And it's like this show could have been so much better if we had gotten to some of these storylines sooner. Because like for me, Omega escaping from Tantus, she just got there. So, where's the tension in that? If you would have had more episodes while she was there and building it up, I think it would have been better. But then again, it is an animated kids show, so it is what it is.
Yes. Do we have any idea of what the heck is going on in that lab back there, where they're just sitting there zapping whatever sea creature that is?
I mean, you would think Filoni loves the Zillo Beast, so maybe it's the Zillo Beast coming back one more time. But then again, I was thinking about this the other day, or while I was watching this episode. Didn't they already establish that they have the poisonous gas that's going to knock everybody out once they get there? Isn't that what he did when Crosshairs tried to escape the first time?
I'm trying to remember. I'm not. If you say it happened, I'll believe it, because my memory. I think
it would have been like season 2 when Crosshair first got there, and he tried escaping, and he sent a message to the Bad Batch, and then Hemlock released like this green noxious gas that knocked everyone out, but Hemlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. It's only been 3 seasons of this show and major storylines.
Like 4 years.
Yeah.
Like the first season was in 22. We're talking 2 years, 3 years. It hasn't been like 3 seasons back to back. There was a decent little break in between 1 and 2.
I understand that, but I think if you were to bring up storylines of, say, the Clone Wars or Rebels, people would understand more what you're talking about than they do the Bad Batch, because I just don't think a lot of it is very memorable.
I don't
disagree. I mean, I like Sid though.
And I'm not saying, I know I come across a lot as being, very down on things, but I enjoy the show. My complaints come from, I think things could just be better. Yes. Every time there's a new project, I want it to be the best thing ever. And I know that's not realistic, but then again, I just think things could be just a little bit better on this show. And your points, your storylines would hit that much harder.
I just don't know, like, and so this is where I come from, is like I think everybody's wanting this like grand scheme, and each season has its own story, and each season has its own plan. So the plan for the original Bad Batch, like, honestly, it felt like, hey, we're going to run this as a pilot. Oh, it got picked up for a second season. Let's throw in a couple more episodes to extend it so we can get some plot lines. Like, that's what I felt like for the first season. Like, I don't know if there is I don't know if they had this story in mind as they were producing and writing the second season. Like, you would want them to. Like, because I think that's everybody. There's a lot of criticism out there like that.
And I think one of my criticisms of the show is I just want it to end. I don't want another show in this time period with these characters. I'm completely fine yes, I will not enjoy it so much, but if the Bad Batch dies and all the clones die, yes, it'll be, bittersweet, a little heartbreaking, but then again, it'd be like, okay, if we can finally put this to rest and go to somewhere else. I don't want another show that has cameos by Rex and Cody and the other clones, and we're still playing around with this idea of what happened to the clones. I think it's time to move on to something else.
You know where I'm coming from, Alfie, on all of that, right? Like, that I want nothing more than new stories coming out with time in the old. Give me new characters, give me new stories. But I also know that money is king, and right now, and you've heard me say it, we've talked about it. Right now, the culture of Star Wars is prequel era.
Yeah,
the culture of Star Wars, the big money in the fan base, the people that are watching, the people that are consuming, are the 30-year-olds that were 10-year-olds when the Phantom Menace came out and the prequel era came out and Clone Wars came out. So right now, the fascination with Star Wars, I think rests solely in that prequel era time frame.
And I think that's fair. That's a fair, view of it. I just think these characters themselves have been played out long enough. It's time to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I started building my Commander Cody helmet from the Lego helmet collection. I started building that last night because I'm suspicious Cody's going to be coming back here soon. So let me just start building this helmet so I can get prepared for it, because I'm on a Lego streak. It just continues. Built Indiana Jones the other night, and we're going back to clones because, every now and then you need a clone cameo in your life.
And I love the clones. They're one of my favorite parts of the prequel era, outside of Anakin Skywalker. But I just think there's a lot more stories that you can tell outside of just Rex and Cody, and I don't want that to prolong into another series of, is Cody going to show up? Are we going to finally see what Cody's doing? Stop teasing that. Either just end it or just let it die.
Yeah, I realized the other night, like, looking at my shelves, that by far the most Lego minifigures I have are Clone Troopers. By far. I just have loads of them.
Yeah.
And I keep buying
them. Clone Trooper Black Series figure, I'm buying it. They're by far the best Black Series figures.
And DDoc, I think, aren't you in that time space that I'm talking about, as far as the age group that grew up on the prequel era? And
I am. I think it's almost a subconscious thing for me, though, because I've always thought to myself, like, man, people are really into Clone Troopers, and it's something that I don't realize that I guess I'm into myself.
Yeah, who'd they pick?
Joel Embiid just hit a beautiful.
You're watching that? I thought you were watching the draft also.
Sixers Nick, man, I'm stressed. I don't know what the Eagles are doing. Usually I would have the draft on right now, but this, oh my God.
Oh, they're still a ways away.
This series with the Knicks, my wife's family is from New York, and we're going back and forth in the texts. It's the trash talk is happening. It's, they're big Knicks fans, which I've rooted for the Knicks this year personally, because it's been fun to watch them come back into relevance. But now, of course, the first round of the playoffs has to be Sixers versus Knicks. Plus, the Knicks are also filled with Villanova players, which I've followed Villanova as well. But that's enough sports from me. I'm doing a live unboxing of this tonight later in the episode.
Hey, that's good box art.
Yeah, we're gonna see if the box art lives up to the hype.
So the question I'm gonna pose to you guys goes back to the actual Bad Batch episode.
Mm-hmm.
When Echo is searching through the photos of all of the different clone troopers, did you hope that there would be like this old guy with a gray beard that would show up as one of the pictures? And if you don't know who I'm talking about, am I frozen?
No.
Yeah. So Echo, like right when she comes in and says, "Oh, you're Echo," and she told me about you. He was searching through, and it showed profiles of the different clothes that I'm assuming are getting tested.
I'm with you now. Okay, I know who you're talking about.
Okay, so it's showing the different profiles that I'm sure that I was assuming that they were testing. So as they were going through, because you were like promoting this this tease, I was thinking that maybe they would drop this old guy with a gray beard as one of those pictures. And I actually saw a guy with a beard, so I went back and watched it a second time, but it wasn't who I was expecting it to be.
Right. That would be something. And that's another thing too, because if you look at Dr. Erie's data pad, whenever she's using it, there's 9 people on it, and there's only 5 in the room where Omega's at.
There's only 1, 2, 3, 4. Omega making 5, but there's 9 on there. Well, they went through several older clone faces.
Right.
I want to say there was probably 6 or 7 clone faces, and then Omega's face showed up as he was going through that data file or whatever he stumbled upon. So those happen. They have to be those like Weapon X clones that Hemlock sent to go find Omega.
Right. And and
we still don't know anything about that one, right? We still don't know that was another one that we didn't see before, right?
And it wouldn't be such a big deal if you didn't focus on him climbing out of the river like he survived. So
right, like he's got to come back at some point or make it look like there was more of them, because I think he killed one. So in that same episode, didn't they kill one and then they sent this guy out? Well, or was it
made you think he killed one, but then at the end he crawled out of the river like he survived.
Before they sent this guy, wasn't there another like super weapon clone that was sent out prior? I'd have to go back and watch the episode.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch too.
I felt like there was a clone that was sent that failed, and I thought it was like a super weapon clone that failed. So then he called this guy and is like, "I need you to do it because you're better," kind of a call. He went out, right, and then he crawls out of the water like you think he's dead. But I felt
are you talking about the one that they captured? And I can't remember if and the other assassin killed him, didn't he? When he showed up?
I can't remember. I'm just telling you from sitting here from a month ago, I felt like there was an assassin clone X that started off, failed, then they called this another guy up.
Yeah, because they had him at Rex's hideout.
Yes. And then they said, and then they saw Crosshairs, and he saw went nuts, right? But like he's like, "Why don't you ask him?"
Yeah, why don't you ask him? Oh yeah,
right. So they were in like the jail cell, so yeah. So there's got to be more of that Weapons X program, and Crosshair was a part of it. So that's another storyline that's kind of written in there. And then I haven't gone back and watched, but you say, and I haven't heard anybody else talk about it, that there's a potential of having another. So you have the Kid vault, and then we have the Weapon X vault, right? Of these guys that you say it looks like they were prototypes of the Dark Troopers,
right?
And you said, and then we talked about the Subterranean, which nobody else has picked up on, which may be just a throwaway line, but there might be another vault as well. So that's another storyline. There's more information.
Yeah, kind of like where Omega went in this episode. She crawled through the tunnels and found. I mean, you couldn't really see it too much, but it kind of looked like the Zillo Beast. But
Yes, it was that was the underwater. She got into that underwater lab.
And then there's the Sith vault.
That's the one you were talking about, right? That's the one you were talking about. Is with that when the Emperor was there,
right?
So, does the Emperor need to come back? Right? I mean, so right now we got 3 or 4 question marks. Does the Emperor need to come back? Who are the Weapon X clones, like those clones?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with Omega and her kids in the testing? What's in the water and the Zillo Beast or whatever was in the water?
Right. What happened to Cody?
What is that?
Zillo Beast.
The Zillo Beast.
Oh.
Which I didn't even think it could be, but now when I'm looking at pictures of it and I see the head and the neck and everything, I'm like, oh yeah, I think that definitely could have been one that they had in the water.
Yeah, I think the Zillo Beast eventually, because it's been in the Clone Wars a few times, it's been in Bad Batch twice. I think the Zillo Beast is going to have, God, and I hate this about Star Wars, but then again, I love it at the same time. I think it's going to have something to do with the Death Star. That's why they're keeping it around, and they keep trying to replicate
the Zillo Beast?
Yes. I think it's scales, because it's whenever they fight it, it basically reflects they can't ever harm it. They basically have to put it to sleep every time. I think it'll have something to do with the laser, what goes around the laser, or that the shaft that the laser shoots through
to help contain the energy. That's a way they use that to protect and contain the energy, so they can focus it into one beam. Interesting, but it's probably true. I mean,
I know, right? I mean, it is interesting, but then at the same time, like, oh my God, does everything in Star Wars have to come back to the stupid fucking Death Star?
Everything has to come back to desert planets and Tatooine as well. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, like and people will say that it's a rhyming situation. That was from was that from the Clone Wars, or is that from earlier this? Well, I think that was like season 2 when you saw the Zillo Beast getting attacked.
I can't tell if this is Bad Batch or Clone Wars Zillo Beast. But it's similar beams that they're shooting at it, those blue beams, almost like the turrets on Hoth, that they were shooting at it to kind of keep it in the water.
Do you have to do that like all day?
I know. That's why I'm like, do these guys get bored of doing this?
That's a worse job than the guys in Lord of the Rings on top of the mountains.
I know, exactly. There's the guy. It looked like the stormtrooper was actually like pressing a button too. I'm sure it's like, was he actually like pressing a button and like manually zapping it, or was it because it's like, shouldn't we have auto fire on this freaking thing? I'd have to go back. I'd have to go back and look at it. But yeah. Hey, how about Echo getting a hand? Did you guys already bring that up at all?
No. But when I saw that, the first thing I thought of was like Iron Man 3, when Tony Stark has the surgery to have the stuff removed from his chest. It's like, you could do this the whole time. Why didn't you just do this in the first place?
Exactly.
Just like, any random droid you can take their hand from, and
I know. In my mind, when that happened, I'm like, are you telling me this is the first time you thought like you can just hook a hand up to that? Why are you walking around with a screwdriver for an arm if you had the option to just click a hand right onto it at any moment? But maybe it was that specific droid that he needed their hand,
He had to sell himself as a stormtrooper, and he never had to sell himself when he's in the Bad Batch. No one saw him, and he didn't need to hide and disguise himself. So he's thinking, how can I disguise myself? And he saw the hand.
He didn't do a good job when he got caught messing around in that room. He wasn't very subtle with snapping his hand back on.
No, not at all.
Oh, nothing to see here. Just checking up on things. She's like, Echo, and then he's like, what? He just turns around and looks right at her. But I originally thought it was what is the I forget the doctor's name every time. Echo or Omega's sister, Emery. I thought it was Emery who was working in the room at first, and I'm like, does she look different? I'm like, why is she being so mean to them? But it was a different person, I guess, working the room.
They've shown her a few times.
Okay, I probably just didn't even notice that it was someone else, because that one girl was like, I'm hungry. I'm still hungry. And she was just like, you'll get used to it.
You'll get used to it. Keep taking care of that baby. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Alfie, did you have something you wanted to say? Because I saw you go to say something right before
I forget. Okay, going back an episode, did Dr. Emery leave the tools there for Echo? Or I'm sorry, Omega to steal one?
No, I don't think she left them. Because I think Emery wasn't even the one doing it. I think it was the assistant that was going through getting the blood. So Emery went off in a different direction. So she was able to palm one of the tools and put it into her shirt. I don't think it was Emery that left a tool for her. Now, again, I could go back and watch, but I don't think that was the case.
I also got to say, that room is so tiny. It's like, how are they not noticing that Omega is off sneaking around? Wouldn't they be like, this is the person that we've traveled the galaxy to bring back here, and then she's able to just go sneaking about the facility?
Who already snuck out of the facility one time.
I think we can blame Omega for on program and having everybody in Andor get electrocuted by their feet. So I think because Omega's sneaking around, they decided to make their prisons a little bit more secure and made everybody have that on program situation. So yeah, thanks, Omega.
I just like that they have this giant viewport with all these people in there, and they still every time never see her doing anything.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's where I think if they would started this sooner, it would have more impact. It would work a little bit better. At this point, it just feels like another trope of the series. Oh, she's captured again. Oh, she'll escape. Look, day one, there she goes.
So what does Calvary what does the Calvary arrive? That's the title, right? Foreshadowing, what does that mean? Does that mean the clone troops are gonna they're gonna send out a signal and the clone troops come? Does that mean that the Emperor is gonna come and bombard the area?
Okay, so 3 things from the trailer that we have not seen yet are Hera, Chopper, and Darth Vader. So you would think so, but I don't really know. Is it the Zillo Beast? I don't know. Maybe the clones show up and they do good for a little bit, and then they're getting their butts kicked because Vader shows up, and then they release the Zillo Beast. I mean, I think we can all agree that at some point Omega's letting the Zillo Beast out, right? And it's going to cause havoc.
Should be interesting. Should be very, very interesting. And
I want the clones to show up just so that they can be wiped out. Put up a valiant effort, and like I said, so that it's just over. I understand that there's always going to be clones, just like the Jedi. There's always going to be 1 or 2 somewhere, but I'm talking the main contingent that's left.
I just want to see fandom burn because I think that you're not alone. I think a lot of people are wanting to see this massive Clone Wars, right? I think that was what the Hyperspace Hero said a few weeks ago in our chat, and I don't see that happening. I don't know. I just don't feel like that's going to happen. But then again, I'm always wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a part of me that doesn't see that happening either. But then it's like, then why this emphasis on what Echo is doing with Rex all season if it's not going to go anywhere? If it's not, that's fine. I'm perfectly fine with a small ending. Okay, fine. No big deal. But then why did you keep putting that into the story? I think that's pretty crappy if you don't have a payoff to that.
Doc, what do you think it means?
I was thinking about the NFL draft for a second, and
I know you were.
I fixed my microphone though.
You are way too ADHD for what's going on tonight for yourself to try to keep on one topic.
Dude,
what do you think the cavalry arrives means?
I think it's got to mean clone troopers. I think it's got to mean clone troopers showing up to wipe out this base. That's what I've thought probably from the moment I saw this title. So, you know, I have a feeling that the Bad Batch is going to find themselves into trouble in this final episode. And I think word will get out. I mean, Emery is going to work on their side now. You know, that's fairly obvious after what happened with her conversation with Echo. So I think maybe she's going to send some kind of signal out that there's danger on the planet and maybe send the location of Tanis. And maybe all of these clone troopers were at Echo Base before they head off to fight in this battle. Maybe that's what Echo and Rex have been up to, was creating Echo Base, because you know we've made that theory that it could be named after him. Go ahead, Alfie.
What if Echo at the end of the season stays a stormtrooper and then aids whatever groups from inside going forth?
Ooh. The original Fulcrum. He's got to get found out.
You would think so.
Crosshair would be a more believable. I would feel like if that's going to happen, it would have to be Crosshair.
Now, here's my question. And again, another character in this show whose name that I just constantly forget, the general who's working with them right now.
Rampart.
And forgive me if you guys touched on this when I had to restart. And my audio is good now, correct, Alfie? You
yes.
texted me that. It probably sounded terrible. It was on my camera, so sorry about that. But what did he mean when he said to Crosshair, like, you only care about yourself? And then it almost seemed like he had some realization that Crosshair was like up to something, even though Crosshair said things changed. You know, obviously he's referring to his love for Omega and everything. But didn't it seem like he still kind of didn't believe him? Like Rampart kind of didn't believe him still?
Well, I think Rampart knows what's going on at this facility, and who knows what they've done to Crosshair. You know, is there, something recessive that they've done that they could reactivate? Or
oh my God, not Order 69.
I mean, it's a good order.
It's a very good order.
It's a good order. Alfie, did you catch the patrolling V-Wings at the very beginning?
Yes. I do like me some V-Wings.
I mean, that was the only reason why I know about that is from my Star Wars Unlimited game, because I use them as my cards. But like the V-Wings, like I had never really seen them before much. Do you know any of their history of the V-Wing? DDoc, we're talking about the TIE fighters that were chasing after the bad.
Yeah, I don't know their history, but I think the first time you see them are at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, there you are.
When they're looking out over the Death Star, you can see the V-Wings. And I may be wrong, but I think they escort the Emperor's shuttle into Coruscant when he lands with Vader.
Is the V-Wing the baby of the TIE fighter? It
looks like kind of the Jedi Starfighter with TIE fighter wings.
Yeah.
And they fold like Anakin's Starfighter does, but then they open fully like a TIE fighter.
Yeah, and the blasters sound similar to a TIE fighter, I thought, kind of, when they were shooting.
Yeah. I think you can fly as one in Battlefront 2.
So it's another one of those things of the new Empire using the old clone tech.
Yeah, kind of the mishmash there before they go fully to the TIE fighter.
Looking over what Michael Nip said, I think he's catching up with what we were talking about, and we did I think talk about when you were off. No, the second one. Are we going to get the Clone X? Who is the Clone X, or what is the Clone X program? Is that the same program that the Emperor was was looking to that says controls the whole future of the Empire.
We will see.
Yeah,
Do you have any theories?
I still would like to see the one surviving member from Crosshair's crew come back at some point. Again, just like this clone assassin and Cody, and saying Echo's been off working with Rex. Why put such an emphasis on her survival if she's never important to the story again?
Oh, you're talking about from like season 1, the one that looked like Iden Versio. Gotcha.
I'll go ahead and pour my beer into the cup there, DDoc, so you don't get a nice screenshot for this episode.
I'm going to continue. Again.
You're going to continue to be distracted by the Flyers.
So distracted.
We're not Flyers, by the Sixers.
And B just got fouled on a 3-pointer. I mean, the Knicks are just getting so pissed. I mean, I'm sure my in-laws are extremely pissed right now too. I have other notes that I thought of stuff we can talk about Star Wars wise that I kind of, as we were talking, all these thoughts came to mind. Do we have any more thoughts on Bad Batch as we're going along here?
I got one more thought. What happens to Rampart? Because he's kind of in the middle of all this. He's forced to go to Tantus. He's a Imperial fugitive. So in the middle of the finale, like, what's he supposed to do? I mean, there's no good outlook for this guy right now.
No, he's already done some bad stuff, but he's also gotten in trouble. You know, he's in trouble on both sides. So maybe he'll do something.
Because he wiped out Camino. So if any clones do show up, I don't think they're going to be very receptive towards him.
You just got me thinking about Dr. Pershing too from The Mandalorian, because he's wearing the Camino. He's wearing the suits that Emery's wearing, that the Camino scientists wear. So like, was he on Tantus? Is Pershing on this planet, or did Pershing move to Exegol and continue the cloning with the pickle jars? Because that's where I think there's a lot of people, if you're looking and fast forwarding, there are some people that are speculating that. And then how does the Obi-Wan amber cells in the Inquisitor chambers, does this play into those amber cells as well?
Oh, there's another storyline to wrap up. What happened to Nala Se? Is she still in prison? Have they killed her?
Right.
I would have to go back and watch, but when they evacuated the clones from Camino, did the Kaminoans go with them? Are they somewhere? Because you would think with this big facility and what you're trying to do, why would you get rid of all of them if they're the best at that?
Yeah, but I feel like they took the one that they felt like was going to be useful and killed all the rest. That was my interpretation, which is why Rampart is the fugitive, because when the video came out, everyone was like up in arms that you had massacred all of these people. So they kept the one that was important.
You got to do it like they did in Rogue One. You have to have a cover story for the
mining. It's a mining disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Just say it's a mining disaster.
And I just have to give one more draft update. It looks like the Vikings sold their life to move up to draft JJ McCarthy. They sold a ton of picks, so just gotta put that out there. But Alfie's points are interesting. That's I'm laughing while Alfie's talking about this stuff, because it just shows how crazy the world of Star Wars is, and all of these storylines with all of these characters in it. And you want to know what happens to all of them, because they all play a pretty huge role in everything that's been going on. It's a pretty hard story to wrap up, honestly. I guess that's why we've gotten all of this content from this era with all the clone troopers and everything, because there's so many layers to it.
Right. And we know that Asajj is going to have a future in the story. So if Omega and the Jedi children escape, I shouldn't say Jedi children, I apologize for that, high M count children, or however they refer to them, is she going to be a part of that? Is that what they're trying to set up? I don't know. Seemed kind of odd for her to show up just like that and plant these little nuggets of, future Force users.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe we might get like a, Rise of Skywalker / Avengers Endgame style, attack here where we have Asajj showing up to fight alongside the clone troopers with, Rex, and who knows, maybe even Fennec is going to show up and fight alongside of them. She's played a pretty decent sized role in this show. Who knows what's going to happen this final episode. All I know is it's going to be an all-out battle is what I just imagine,
Yeah. Show Quinlan Voss, and then you have like 2 years to set up whatever you want to, and the internet will go crazy with rumors and speculation and his part in the whole story. And at some point, you think, go ahead.
I was gonna say Michael Nip in our comments basically feels the same way about what you're talking about with Quinlan Voss, and so we're gonna after credit scene or something like that to set up the next show. So you can drop a couple nuggets or a couple Easter eggs.
Yeah, I think setting them up to be the, protectors, if you will, of the path, and you could even tie. I've said it before. You could tie right into Jedi Fallen Order with their mysterious Jedi planet that's impossible to find, where they could build a new Jedi Order. And eventually lead into the Rey movie.
Yeah, I just think if you're making another full-time Star Wars animated show, I think you should just go to the original trilogy and talk about what happened after that. I know that we know what happens to Luke and everything, but I'm sure there's plenty of good stories you could tell, whether it has to do with the EU or not. I would love an animated original trilogy show. Be incredible. So that's what I
by the way, the Colts just picked an edge rusher out of UCLA. It sounds Hawaiian or Samoan, and so I'm not gonna try it. Laeto Latu is the best I can do. Never heard of it, but so Colts have a outside edge rusher. Supposedly the stats that I was just reading on him compare him to TJ Watt, so they think he's going to be a pretty solid pick. But
yeah, it's a pretty good comparison right there.
Yeah, if you live up to that, if you live up to the
player of the year,
right? Like it's always up if you live up to it. So I think so. DDoc, I think we're gonna let's put the Bad Batch to rest, and let's see if we can talk. What is it? Shadows of the Empire too. Does this have any impact on Shadows of the Empire? Does Shadows of the Empire have any impact? What are you thinking about Shadows of the Empire coming out in 2 weeks?
You mean Tales of the Empire?
Tales of the Empire. That's what I meant.
You had me so excited right there when you said Shadows of the Empire. I thought maybe I missed some gigantic announcement.
No. I was talking about, and so there's 6 stories. I think, what is it? The Barriss Offee story, and it's going to be the Morgan Elsbeth story.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like they're going to somehow intertwine them. Or I don't know if they're going to intertwine them at all, but I think that's the way that's setting up is those 2 stories and 3 with 3 episodes each.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Alfie, what do you think?
As far as tying into the Bad Batch?
I mean, is there a possibility that there's any tie-in? The only reason why is because I'm thinking the Jedi kids, right? So you talked about the Jedi kids, high-income kids. We have the Inquisitors. Like, are they going to get into, like, the early hunting of the children that the Inquisitors were doing?
Ooh, that's an interesting take. I would kind of like to see that a little bit.
Just to see if there's any continuity, or they're going to drop a nugget.
Right.
This is what they're doing.
And I was thinking about that today playing Galaxy of Heroes, because, it's called Tales of the Empire. And am I the only one that kind of forgets that Thrawn is a part of the Empire? Because
do you think of him as his own? Do you think of it? He is his
like
own?
His own entity.
I feel like if you're going from live action, I feel like the live action set him up as his own entity, because he was out in the unknown regions. He was out on a distant planet. He wasn't necessarily connected, and then all of his stormtroopers were a little bit weird and or alive with witch magic. So I feel like if I'm going with Thrawn from the extent or from the visual live action world, I can see that he kind of stands alone. But if you're going with the books, I mean, they make a big deal about him being on like Star Destroyers and they didn't talk about him coming from the unknown regions as much.
Right. Yeah, because you go back to like Heir to the Empire, and that was his story.
Right. And they always thought like he had his number 2 in command, which were Imperials. Like they made a big deal about him being an Imperial. And then if you look at his appearance in Rebels, he was always on Star Destroyers. He was even like when he landed at Chopper Base, he was wearing a General Veer's blaster helmet and like over his white.
That's
overalls.
right. Yeah, he did wear that. I think though, even in Rebels, where he is a part of the Empire, he doesn't seem to like fit in with the, I guess, Imperial system.
I mean, the thing that I'll say I'm most excited about to see in it is whatever scenes Grievous is in, which who knows, it could just be a short snippet of this story, but
right.
New animation Grievous, I'm ready to see that because the animation has stepped up so much from that time, and it looked badass in the trailer for it. So
it looked really good.
He is someone that I want a backstory of. If you want a backstory, like you could give me like how did he become the cyborg? How was he recruited? How was he trained in the Jedi arts? Like, just give me more of him. Like, yeah, that's where I'm coming at. Like, you're talking about clones and stuff like that. Like, I feel like that character in his screen time, which I think if you look at it, I'm sure it's not much, but he's captivated me. And I know there's one guy that plays the game with me, Scott Huntley. He captivates him. Like Grievous is like he's got like, you know how you got your tattoos? He's got like the Grievous tattoo, like that head shape and stuff. Like I want a Grievous story badly.
Dude, imagine that almost like Batman Begins style, but it's like Grievous being wronged by the Jedi, where it's almost like how what DC recently did with the Joker too. You know, where you just tell the story of a guy you know who's a bad guy and figure out how he became that bad guy, and you'll probably sympathize with him in some kind of way because I mean he becomes, you know, a robot with just like a couple, you know, little organs inside of there, you know.
Somebody told me a while ago that there was a backstory that was
written
on it, but like you know how I am. I want it visual. Give me the cartoon. It's got to be a cartoon. Give me live action. Give me a cartoon. Give me a short. It could be a short. I don't even care.
And if I remember correctly, I think it was Sidious who orchestrated the crash in his wife, being made into a cyborg and all of that.
Do you think Grievous goes to the bathroom?
I don't think he has.
He's probably got a hookup, like an RV, you know.
But see, I think the only thing he has is like a brain, eyes, and a heart. I don't think he has anything else.
I think there were a few other organs in there, but yeah, probably not a whole lot. And can you just go back to the fact of how amazing he looks in Revenge of the Sith? That is like the peaks of CGI.
It really is. It's insane, actually. Every time I watch prequel trilogy, I watch stuff from that time and see the CGI in other movies, and it looks awful compared to what they did in that trilogy.
I mean,
when they show the close up of his face when he's dueling with Obi-Wan, and you can see like the skin texture underneath the mask and his eyes, and that is just like top notch. That's the best of the best as far as CGI goes.
Well, so that made me think about the volume and the use of the volume. Favreau knows how to use the volume, and then other people just haven't been able to emulate it. And you can, like, when you're watching The Mandalorian, you can't tell if you're on the volume.
Right.
But you watch like Obi-Wan, or you watch another show that's in that world, like a Marvel show, and you can totally tell that it's on the volume and it's not. Like, so there are other people there are just some people that master certain techniques and but
even the Acolyte trailer, I feel like there's certain shots in the Acolyte trailer that look like they're on the soundstage. And yes. I don't get why you would include that, other than, I mean, that's your big money shot there, but it just does not look right.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have like 9 sabers, spark at the same time, it's still pretty badass.
That's still pretty badass. I will give you that. The saber going through the forest, cutting down all the trees. It's badass, but when you look at it, you're like, and this looks kind of fake.
Yeah, that one looked bad, but I still think that like I didn't pay attention to the background when I saw all the saber spark. Like I was completely taken by the saber spark.
Yes,
yeah, I'll give you that.
One thing I will say is I'm always ready to eat my words on this podcast. And I stood on a pedestal and crushed those lightsabers recently on about 2 weeks ago. And I will be ready if they look awesome in the show to just say I was totally wrong. So I have no problem with that. But Brent is totally right about Favreau and just figuring out the volume and just making it look like it. Because The Mandalorian always feels very cinematic to me. It really does.
Well, you're talking about a filmmaker that has made a film in a parking lot and turned it into this pretty amazing, digital jungle.
Right.
So he's got some experience with effects.
I mean, what was it? He started with the Jungle Book, then he went with what was it, Lion King live action. Yes. So he has an understanding of that visual effects world. But like, so the key one that I think about is like when you see Werner Herzog sitting behind the desk, talking about, oh, where's my little one? When Mando first hands over Grogu, Werner Herzog is sitting behind the desk. That's the volume. That is not a set behind him. And you have no idea that that's the volume.
No, it looks like a room. There's almost like
it was literally
it's that's crazy.
The opening scene with Mando on the ice planet, and it just goes on forever, and it looks so real. Whereas, like you say, other people use it, and you can tell that like this is where reality ends.
Doesn't set up
this
right.
line
Yeah,
right
it
here.
just doesn't look right. There's something that's off about it, and you can tell. Good special effects. You feel like you're a part of it, which is why 99% of the original fanboys and the people that were alive in '77 fell in love with Star Wars because people were like, because if you go and watch, 2001: A Space Odyssey, it looks like it was in the same kind of era as far as movie making, but that effects situation was like 1950s style versus what you got with Star Wars, where it was just blow people away with what they could do and what they did actually do.
And you have like my generation who saw like The Abyss.
Oh, that was amazing.
Terminator 2, and then watched it, progress into Jurassic Park, and then all these other different films, and just got better and better and better. And then you hit episode 1, and personally, to me, it threw me off the first time I saw. Probably the first couple times I saw episode 1, because it looked so real, and you get that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? My mind just went blank. That valley kind of effect where you're like, I don't like this because it's too bright, it's too real, and I know it's all fake.
Right, and that's what it was. I think there was too much of the brightness that like the original trilogy had this dark and dirty, grungy, lived in effect to it because it was in the desert planets, but it was like dark and dungy and gritty. And then you have this bright, like just fresh and clean, like it was just, you just rolled off of the showroom floor with the 3 coats of wax on it, and it was just almost too shiny for me.
Yes, and I understand what he was going for, the aesthetic, and what he was trying to say with that. I totally get it, but I think it just, for our generation, or I should say my generation, it was just off-putting a little bit.
Now, while we're on this topic, I think Joe had sent us a news story this week that I had just thought of as we're talking about it. That Favreau is most likely going to be done with Star Wars once this Mando Grogu movie comes out. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Because to be honest with you, I've kind of felt like Favreau was going to be like a high level position in Star Wars kind of like for a long time. And I mean, he's a very creative guy and there's a lot he can do. So, I mean, I know to deal with with everything that comes with Star Wars, it takes a lot. But I kind of was hoping he would stick around in like some kind of senior level role or something, But I guess he's telling his story and he's going to have an end to it. What do you guys think about it? Brent, do you got a take on it?
I mean, basically what you just said, right? He got into it to tell this story. He's going to tell this story and get out. Part of it, I think, has to do with typecast. I don't like, and I would say typecasting director, typecasting creative. He doesn't want to limit himself to just being in this world. He wants to be able to see other parts of movie making. Now, good, bad, other, indifferent. I think he has been fantastic for the Star Wars community. He's been fantastic for the creative decisions that he's making. It sucks to see him go, but it's almost like, yeah, I understand you. Like I don't want just don't typecast me. Don't make me the Star Wars guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I can do Iron Man, I can do Star Wars, I can do Elf, like I could do other things, man.
Chef is a underrated Favreau movie where he is the main character.
Swingers.
I still want to see his Disney movie. I know he hasn't made it yet, and it's been on the back burner for years. He's tried and tried. I'm hoping that all of this time, making the live action Disney movies, working with Star Wars, that he can finally get it made.
What do you mean? Well, I don't know anything about this.
He has an idea for a live action movie that takes place at Disney World, and he's worked on it for quite a few years. I know it's all rumors, speculation kind of stuff, but
so not like Tomorrowland, but like this is like
kind of in the, not as far as making like a haunted mansion movie, but as far as like a movie set in Disney World, like after the lights go out and comes alive, like Toy Story, something to that extent.
That would be awesome. Like that sounds like an awesome idea, especially me as a Disney fan. Like,
from what I've read over the years, this has been like an idea that's brewing, and he's worked and worked and worked trying to get it right, and just hasn't been able to like really nail it the way he wants.
Right, and I think that's the key, right? Like he's not gonna do it until he knows that he can do it to the caliber that he can do it.
And I think it's okay for somebody to step away. Do they come back after a while? Who knows? Does he work on this movie and all of a sudden a great idea comes and he says, you know what? Let me take a few years off. I'm going to work on this, work on a few other things. Let me let this percolate and we'll come back to it. Sure. I think it's great and there's nothing in that article that said he wouldn't be in, some type of senior position or consultant position.
Now, I got to share this because as you guys are talking about him, I saw him recently in a movie where I was just like, I don't remember him being in that. And I'm trying to remember, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with the show Rocket Power. I grew up personally watching it. Look at his character. He was in an episode of Rocket Power. I don't know if you guys can read that. Look at his name.
Dick Shaky?
Dick Shakely.
Shakely.
I love it.
His name
was in the Sopranos episode?
Yes, he was. I just watched that episode the other day. It's a great episode. He's in it. I'm trying to think of the redhead's name. She was on Justified, but
he was a voice on Tarzan?
The TV series. It's so funny because you see so many connections to Disney with him early on in his career too. So he's Dick Shakely in Rocket Power. He's been in Family Guy, Rugrats. There was a.
Are you just going to skip over the fact that he was in Daredevil?
Daredevil.
I mean, who doesn't remember that great late 90s, early 2000s superhero film?
Oh, and he was in The Replacements.
You're talking about the Ben Affleck movie.
Yes.
Okay. Like, because I know Daredevil has a lot of positive reviews. Now, DDoc, you better be careful. We're going to get a copyright strike. But
I don't think we will for IMDb. I think we'll be okay to look at.
He was great in The Breakup.
It took forever. There's another one that was on there that was like He's on the Wolf of Wall Street too, but like it was like
Yeah, he was the
guy.
I'm trying to think of the name of the movie. It was like when it's not the breakup, but it was 3 singles go to an island. It was a comedy.
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah,
they go to I can't think of the name of it. Like if he would slow down with scrolling up and down.
I know what movie. I know what movie you're talking.
Yeah, keep
about.
going. Keep going down now. He's an actor. It's
called like the Love Getaway or something like that.
Keep scrolling down.
Couples Retreat or
Couples Retreat. Yes.
There you go.
That was what year did that come out? Okay, 2009.
Like 10. Yeah, like
5.5. That's not a 5.5.
It's a terrible movie.
No, it's a terrible movie.
It's a terrible movie. So when you were saying that you like going along with this, like the idea, I thought you were going to segue into the videos that have been put out of somebody who were like, if Star Wars was made in the 1950s, and it was like all of like the Bollywood and 1950s technology, and Jabba the Hutt it was like a big 4-limbed creature, and Han Solo looked different, and it looked like a 1950s movie, and I was like, yeah, that does look like it. But I kind of want to see the full-length movies, I think is what one of us said.
Yeah, I want to see it right now.
But with like that 1950s Buck Rogers special effects.
It would be pretty cool.
So, Brent, you're going to see episode 1 next
I
weekend,
am going to see episode 1 on Sunday, like at May 5. I'm sorry, I can't go on May the 4th with you. But I think I'm going to try to nerd out on May the 4th, though. Play like there is a Shatterpoint, which is like one of the miniature games. There's going to be Legion, and then there's going to be people at my game store playing that card game Unlimited. So there's going to be a bunch of people there. But yeah, so noon-ish on May the 5th, I will be sitting in the theater watching Phantom Menace. And I'll hear my favorite line.
on Saturday.
I'll hear my favorite line. He's gone up the ventilation shaft. It's my favorite. It's my favorite line because it's so odd.
Did you see episode 1 when it came out at the theater?
3 times, I think. I went
DDoc?
to
yes.
I went to like one because I was college-ish age, so I went one time in Bloomington, and then I went. Actually, it was right around the summer too, I think. Yeah, so it was in May, right? Was it one of the May releases? I think so.
Yes.
So I think I went multiple times because in the Bloomington, but then I had a friend that I went up and watched it on like, I don't know if it was IMAX, but it was definitely on like a big screen, a bigger screen that they had in Bloomington. So I watched it then.
Yeah, I just remember seeing it just because it was the first movie that marketing just took a full hold of my life because I just remembered going to Taco Bell and getting a toy where I'm pretty sure it was one of those like scrunchy air poppers where it was Sebulba's Pod Racer.
Yes.
You could stick it in there and hit it. And they also had Queen Amidala's ship as well as one of those. And it's like I just remember being like, these are awesome. It's a new Star Wars movie. Like Pizza Hut had stuff. It's like that
Taco Bell, Pepsi, Pizza Hut, and Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was all over. And so I was working at Kmart at the time, right? So this is where it comes up. This is where my hatred of toys coming out early comes from. I was working at Kmart. And I was stocking the toy aisle because I was in the toys in Kmart and there were 2 aisles of figurines a month before the movie came out. And I was like, why are these out? Like, who are these people? I don't even know who these characters are. They mean nothing to me. Why are there this many of them? Stop.
That's called hype, man. That's called hype.
I went to Toys R Us at midnight when they first came out. They had these big bins and they had people on ladders and they had an assembly line of workers handing boxes down the line to the person on the ladder, and they'd cut them open and dump them in a bin and you'd grab as many as you could.
Dude, that is freaking awesome. That's like some Willy Wonka
shit. I stood in
shit.
line to buy tickets. Yeah, it was like I don't know how long I stood in line to get tickets for the midnight premiere.
Yeah, so I wasn't into
Pre-internet.
it like that. I wasn't into it like that for like the midnight premiere. I was fine with going at like Tuesday, like because I said it was summer. I was fine with going at like Tuesday at 4 o'clock or like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was like no one in the theater because it
Yeah.
was.
I saw it
So
3 times opening the day that it opened. I saw it at midnight and then like once in the morning. And then I went back for a third time that night because I was trying to convince myself that it wasn't as bad as it was. And
so
3 viewings later, it was still bad.
when I got done, people were talking about it and comparing it, and I said like, I think most people were trying to say that it felt like Return of the Jedi. Like there were elements of, in my mind, there were elements of like a Return of the Jedi, but a lot of people are like, well, it kind of reminds them of the Star Wars, the original, because you have the celebration scene, you have the battle up top, you have the blowing up of a Death Star type thing where the big Boombas win, or the Gungans then like kick over the droids, and again, this has also started my absolute distaste for the droids. I was not a big fan of the stupid Roger, Roger. That does not compute. You're
Check
under
it out,
arrest.
Corporal.
Right? That was so dumb to me. Like, and I'm an 18-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid. I was like, that's stupid, right? 19-year-old kid, whatever it was. That was dumb. And then Captain Panaka has to be the biggest coward in the world because the other line that sticks out in my head is, our battle security forces will never hold up to the battle-hardened Federation army.
Right.
And then you watch Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan just slice through them and force push them against the wall. And like, why are you saying that they're battle-hardened? You can beat them. You can beat the droids. Yeah. Now, you might not be able to beat the tank, but
literally marching down your road in single file, and you have air support. Why wouldn't you just blast them?
I was frustrated with Pat Panaka on that one.
The only thing, I'm awfully harsh on that movie. I know I am. But I think if you take 15 minutes of that movie and trim it out and then redub the dialogue, because the dialogue and more than the dialogue is the way they talk in the film is what I just do not understand.
I feel like it's worse in Attack of the Clones than it is in the Phantom Menace. I felt more cringe and more ick from Attack of the Clones' dialoge and delivery than I did from Phantom Menace.
See, episode 1 doesn't really make me cringe. It's just like, why the fuck are you talking like this? I just don't understand the monotone, slow delivery of everything. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Man, when I think, oh, you had all the Pepsi cans with the Jedi on them, dude. Dude, why doesn't Pepsi advertise for movies like this anymore? Like that makes me think of your brand. When I see this stuff, I'm just like, I bought into your brand. I wanted to drink Pepsi, even though my parents probably didn't want me to drink Pepsi. Dude, look at that. You got Mountain Dew. Oh my God.
I will tell you, a lot of it probably comes down to the cost of licensing at this point. So Lucasfilms and the way that they don't want to oversaturate it with market, and they control their IP pretty tight. And that's just comes from playing the game and how slowly they trickle things out playing the games that I play. They have to get everything approved from Lucasfilms. I think Joe told us that like when they had the Star Wars night, and they wanted to have the 501st and the Mando Mercs and the Rebel Legions come, you have to get approval from Lucasfilm to be able to do that. They control a lot of the perception of that. So I'm thinking that 1, it's cost, and 2, it's lead time. A lot of this comes down to lead time. To be able to make some of those things, you have to know what that Neimoidian looks like about 2 years before you make that Neimoidian.
True. Man, I want that Mace Windu cup. That is awesome. Oh man, the good old days. The good old days, the 90s, baby. Well, 90s to 2000s, early 2000s.
Yeah, that came out in 99, May of 99.
99. Yeah.
I think it was probably the last VHS tape that I bought.
Well, another story that I saw that I definitely wanted to touch on, and I saw it today, and it was shared in an article, and it was from Hollywood Reporter. And this is slightly almost off topic of Star Wars a little bit, but I saw that movie producers are basing whether they're going to choose a director based on the director's movie's Rotten Tomatoes scores. Strictly Rotten Tomatoes. I think that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Which score, though? The critic score or the audience score?
Well, if it's the critic score, that means every movie that the audience says sucks, that director is going to get hired because, like, there's movies that have bombed and critics have given it a great score on Rotten Tomatoes. So, Steelers are on the clock. So, shout out to Joe if he's in the audience right now, which I doubt he is. But Steelers are about to be drafted. What do you guys think about hiring someone on a freaky? I will say this: I'm an IMDb guy personally. I'd never go on Rotten Tomatoes. I despise that website. It's like my enemy. I don't like it. What do you think about it?
So I'll hold back that. And when you were talking about this, it made me think about another article that I was perusing. Jerry Seinfeld is now a director, and he just has a director. He's a director, and the project is coming out on Netflix, I believe, coming up soon. So obviously he was doing some press junkets, and somebody asked him about movies, and he chuckled. And I'm gonna misquote it, but I'm gonna paraphrase what I can remember. But it was basically saying that when is the public going to realize that movies don't have the same marquee as they used to? They aren't movies aren't what they used to be. They don't have, he said, and he kind of chuckled, and then it went into a little bit more detail, basically saying that our attention spans are splintered, are way more diverse. This isn't the time of having one state or 5 stations and everybody watching the same thing and talking about the same thing. This isn't the time and the age of people going to the same movies, quoting the same movies, making fun of the same movies because we watched it, and having that kind of shared experience. That movies just don't have that cachet anymore, or at least currently in this current society that we have. They may come back. Things are cyclical. But right now, there hasn't been something that has gripped people to come back to movies. And I was like, I kind of agree with that, because I do know that, like, in the 15-16s, in the heart of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I was going to the movies. I was earning my Regal points, getting free movies left and right because I was buying and going so often. And I think I've been to 3 movies since COVID. And then we're now talking 4 years from that.
Yes. Yeah. And I read this same article, Brent, and he describes it. He says it feels like we're walking through you're walking through a fire hose trying to see. And he says depression, malaise, I would say confusion and disorientation replaced the movie business. Everyone I know in show business every day is going, what's going on? How do you do this? What are we supposed to do now? And I read it, and there's definitely some truth to it, because I forget what movie it was that I saw that won an Academy Award probably like 2 years ago, but the director was saying, like, this industry is moving so fast and you have to make your decisions so fast. And if you don't jump on it, you might be 2 years behind. And to me, I think that's part of the problem, is you're trying to do what's trending. And if you're always trying to lasso what's trending online, you're going to be throwing your lasso forever, because it's like someone could create something and it could go 2 ways. You could just have a bunch of people who decide to be a hater on it, or you could just have people go all on board and just be like, we love these guys, even if it might be cheesy. It's very odd. And I think it's probably, I personally, I just think it's part of the generation that came a bit after me, who got cell phones and access to this stuff a lot earlier. I do think it's the way Jerry describes it, I just think people are distracted, or not distracted, but there's just it's so easy to see something, be entertained, and then move on to the next thing that you want to be entertained by.
And we're putting hundreds of millions of dollars into this. We want to guarantee that we're going to get money back on the back end. So we're going to go with what's hot because that's what puts butts in seats. I want butts in seats. I'm going to try to sell. So I got to try to I want to catch that hot lightning in a bottle. And you can see, like, some of this comes from the Lucasfilm's movie strategies that we complain about on this podcast incessantly, is that they try to find the new hot director, try to create something fast without making it good. And they put out or they then cancel it because they can't make it good, or because they know the pressure of making it good is high. Like, I don't know. I'm dominating. Alfie, what do you think?
I think one thing that not a lot of people mention, because I agree with what he's saying and your guys' points. I think we may have reached a pinnacle of movies, and like for myself, I think a lot of times I'm never going to see anything better, so why bother? Especially after seeing Endgame. Right. Walked out of the theater seeing Endgame thinking, I may never have to see another fucking movie again. I mean, what is ever going to compare to this? How is any movie experience going to compare to this? And how is it fair to that movie? That's
true.
So there's that, right? So I think nerd movies are hitting that for sure. They're like, we're going through that like loss.
Everyone wants to make another Lord of the Rings trilogy, but you're never going to do it. There's nothing that was lightning in a bottle that you're never going to be able to reproduce.
Well, I mean, that was passion and love that the person put together. Like Peter Jackson, like, devoted his life to that,
and that's a missing element in a lot of things.
And because they're trying to get the lightning in the bottle. So like Peter Jackson devoted his life. If you hear, I remember watching something with not Ethan Hawke. Who's the other? Who played Frodo? Elijah Wood. Like they legit created a family out of that set. Yeah. Like because they were together for so long, because it was 3 movies, because it was like almost like 10 years of his life. They were talking like I was watching Graham Norton because I watch it all the time, and it's a clip. He started filming when he was 15 or 16 years old, something like that. And then he's like 28, 29 when they were talking to him on Graham Norton. And this was like 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Like almost 20 years of his life was devoted to Lord of the Rings. Something like that. I mean, it's a crazy amount of time that they put into it, but when you put in, you get something out like that. In our society, it's too fast. Like
Viggo Mortensen said the same thing. You know, he's like, I was the second choice for Aragorn, and they called me and said, you've got to be on a plane tomorrow. But if you get on that plane, it's like a 4-year commitment. So this is your choice. Either you do it and you lose 4 years, or you don't. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So to put that kind of commitment into a film, that's not going to happen again. And that's just not the actors. You got to think about, like, you know, watching the behind the scenes, the people who made the sets, the people who made the armor, you know, think about the amount of people, you know, training the horses and taking care of the horses every day. Like, there's some amazing stories in Lord of the Rings just centered around the people who took care of the horses and doing such a great job that, like, I know, for instance, Viggo Mortensen bought his horse to give to that person because they had spent 4, 5, 6 years with that single horse.
And that's just
an amazing commitment.
6 years. That was just the filming part of it. There was also the editing part. There was the pickups, the sound stages, the comebacks. I mean, movie making is long, like, which is crazy because right now they're making movies that you won't see until 27, 29. Like, there are people that are filming movies right now that are public A-list actors, and you're like, I haven't heard from them in a while. And then they're like in the process of making 3 films that all drop in like 3 years from now, 4 years from now. So it's a long process, and society changes in that process. It's just, you gotta find something that works and stick to it and stick to your guns, because I mean, I'm sure there are several movies that probably wouldn't have gotten made in modern society because they were made in, like, let's say the 70s. Heck, Star Wars might not have even gotten made if it was going on right now. If you're pitching this idea of space wizards,
how could you make Pulp Fiction right now in our society? There's no way that would ever be greenlit.
There's just
I don't know, Django Unchained. I don't know the guy who, but then again,
but that was because of Pulp Fiction.
Exactly, he got the green light because you made that and you were a success. So we'll let you say the N-word as many times as you want.
Right.
But Django Unchained is probably in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. My top movies of all time is Quentin Tarantino heavy, just because I think he's just incredible at telling a story, and just he's very good at telling a story in a brutal way. You know, Inglourious Bastards, Pulp Fiction, Django. I love The Hateful Eight. I just recently watched.
That one I really like.
Yeah, that one, Hateful Eight, goes undercover as like an awesome Tarantino movie. Like, it kind of just slipped out when it came out. I don't think it had a ton of hype around it.
I don't.
Brent, you're not I don't get the hype around him.
I am not a Tarantino.
And that's fine.
I don't get the hype around Tarantino.
I love him, and he just scrapped what's supposed to be his final movie, which I have no clue why you're putting yourself on a pitch count when you're considered one of the best filmmakers in an industry where we need good filmmakers in it. You know, just to be like, yeah, I'm only making 10 movies and then I'm done. I can't stand, every time I read that, it makes me cringe. But as we're on this Lord of the Rings topic too, I have to share, I saw an interview with John Rhys Davies the other day, who played Gimli, and his agents were pitching him on playing that role. And he said, I've worked too long in my career to put all these prosthetics on and everything every day. He's like, you know, I've been grinding to not be wearing a beard and a fake nose. And he said that his agents told him, like, if you deny this role, we're not going to be able to work with you anymore. Like, basically, he was just like, he said, he was like, what? He's just like, all right, I guess we're doing this then. Like, yeah. So I never knew it was him from Indiana Jones playing Gimli until like a couple years ago, honestly. And I've always been a huge Gimli fan. But yeah, I mean, the movie I just recently watched last night was Dunkirk by Christopher Nolan.
That is so okay. I am not a fan of his timelines. I don't get it.
I got a little confused at one point where I was like, hold on. This is the second time I've watched this movie. And when it shows Cillian Murphy, after Cillian Murphy's already on the boat being rescued by, I forget the name of the actor who's driving the boat. I'm terrible with names.
You're talking like the fleet of the Citizens Brigade float?
Yes,
fleet?
Yes. And it's the main storyline behind that fleet of the Citizens boats. Cillian Murphy's already on that boat for a decent amount of time, and then next thing you know, it shows him picking up troops who were in the water. You know, a flashback, and it's characters who were in the story earlier. And then I'm like, wait a second, how did Cillian Murphy go from helping them out to being? Unless I saw a different character, I don't know. But it does get a little interesting. Yeah. That movie is stressful, dude.
I get that too. I did enjoy the movie, but I didn't understand the movie. I had to walk out and ask like 10,000 questions as it was going because of the different timelines.
Okay, so you're not a Tarantino guy. I am not a Christopher Nolan guy.
Interesting.
It's not that I dislike his films. I like them. They're fine. But I just don't get the hype about it.
See, I do think he's very good. And
but most of them are those crazy timeline movies, right? Because isn't he Memento too? And like,
yes,
did he direct Inception with Leo as well? Did he do Inception?
Oh God, I remember so my wife.
Because if you want to get confused about what's that,
I'm laughing because I went to the movies with my wife. We were dating at the time before whenever it came out. It was about 30 minutes into the movie, and she's not short, but she was sitting in the chair with her feet just swinging back and forth underneath the chair of the movie. And I was like, you have no idea what's going on, do you? Nope. I'm done. Tap out, I'm done. And like, it was.
That was a confusing that timeline.
Yes, he did
confusing.
do Inception.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Dunkirk. I mean, this morning I had a vivid dream of me and David Jr. on a boat that was sinking and me putting the life jacket on him. And then I could hear Addison, my youngest, I could hear her. And I was asking David, I'm like, is she on the boat with us? Literally me, one of those vivid dreams. Water is coming up. We're in the cabin putting on freaking life jackets. And I hear Addison. I'm like, how did she get on the boat? And then I wake up to Addison in my bed sitting there like smacking me, basically. I was like, it was one of those dreams where I'm just like, damn it, that movie, I got a little too wrapped into it last night. It was like Titanic, you know? But yeah, there's a lot of interesting directors out there. The times changed fast, and I don't know. I feel like Nolan, I feel like Tarantino, I feel like those are the kind of guys, you know, love them or hate them, that, you know, I think they can just put out very good films no matter what is going on. And you need more people like that who are just kind of, you know, invincible to the times, I would say.
You know, I know it doesn't sound right because I've watched his films. I like them. But the only one that I think I've ever watched more than once was Batman Begins.
You don't like The Dark Knight?
I do not understand the hype about The Dark Knight.
I love The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight, when that came out, was just insane, man.
It's one of my favorites.
Now,
of that series,
The Dark Knight to me is like Godfather 2 compared to The Godfather. I get it. It is a much better film. The script is better. The settings are better. The acting is better. Everything about that film is 100 times better than the first film. But to me, it is so boring. I cannot make it through that sucker more than once.
Yeah,
there are slow parts to it. I got you.
Maybe that's a knock on me more than your film. I get your film. It was a beautiful film. It's great. Everything about this film is great. But to me, I think it's not enjoyable to watch.
I think we established that you might have ADHD, right? Because we were watching the videos of kids watching a math video trying to learn math, and then put Star Wars on, and the kid can sit still.
I definitely would have been the one spinning in the chair. I mean, half our podcast, I sit here fiddling with Legos in my fingers as we're talking about stuff. But yeah,
I'm hobbying. Like, I've gotten to a point where I haven't got much to do, so I didn't go back upstairs to hobby. I hobby all the time. I get the ADHD stuff.
Yeah, and that's probably why I like so many movies that I see in the theater, because it's loud and it's bright. I have some popcorn and a drink and some candy, and
you lock in. Like, that's like your time to lock in, and it is for me too.
Right?
What the heck? Eagles on the board.
Movies have to be really bad for me to leave the theater and say that was a shit movie.
Right. I want to be entertained, and if I'm entertained, I think it's a good movie.
And
I want to say the movies that I go to, I'm entertained. Like Eternals, I was entertained. I didn't think it was a crap movie. I was entertained by the Eternals.
I was entertained when I watched the Eternals at home too. The problem is that, like Alfie said, with what happened with Avengers Endgame and what happened with a lot of these movies beforehand, it just did not have the same feeling. Like this really means something, you know. It didn't have it, and proof is in the pudding now that it doesn't. I mean, it's unless they come back and do something with it, I don't know.
I always go back to Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. That one got me. You know, I really enjoyed it watching it, but by the time I got to the car, I was like, God, that movie fucking sucked, didn't it?
Yeah, that happens sometimes. And the final topic I have on my sheet as we're wrapping it up tonight. Deadpool Wolverine. This movie is a sure thing, is it not?
Adam Parker's still with us.
I wore the Eagles shirt tonight just because it's the draft. You know, I gotta wear the good luck shirt. It seems they're showing a bunch of cornerbacks right now, and also shout out to Joe and the Molinaro family. They drafted a guard, so they're bulking up the offensive line for Pittsburgh Steelers. He was very happy to be drafted to Pittsburgh. So shout out to them for getting a good offensive lineman. What do you think, Alfie, about Deadpool Wolverine?
I'm not betting against anything that has Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine in it. The dude has been playing this character for what? Like at least 2 solid decades? When did the X-Men come out? Like early 2000s?
I was young when it came out. I was young.
So he's moving on to close to 2.5 decades here playing this character. And X-Men Origins was an absolutely crappy movie, but I went to the midnight premiere for that. I was very entertained.
Was that the introduction of Deadpool with Ryan Reynolds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just making sure that was the right movie I was thinking of.
I mean, that was probably the worst of him as Wolverine, but it was still a fun movie. It was a good popcorn movie. Like I said, I've never watched it again. I left the theater knowing that was a crappy movie, but it was a lot of fun to watch. This R-rated Marvel is kind of hard to beat. I think Ryan Reynolds at Deadpool nails it.
My nurse for my son is a 70-year-old former hippie. Sits around and is very, very patient, very like, oh, he's doing this and he's doing that. I walk in one time because I have a second job, and that's why she watches him while both of my wife and I are out. I come in, she has Deadpool on the television. Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 are her favorite movies.
Yeah, they're great movies.
This grandma that is the nicest, sweetest young lady loves Deadpool.
Yeah,
there's something about Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool that is.
We're going back to I'm going to tie it in full circle. We're going back to the Lord of the Rings here. Okay, this Deadpool is a perfect example, just like Lord of the Rings, of someone who had to fight to get his product made and made the way that he wanted it, and it came out great.
And he had to fight to get Wolverine. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I believe that there's going to be a chemistry between the two of them too. They have a chemistry in real life. They have a chemistry when they sit and talk in like
it took him
interviews.
A long time to convince him to come back as Wolverine. He hinted at it, I think, from the first movie, and finally happened. He finally badgered his friend into doing it.
Which has been since the year 2000. So he's been playing Wolverine for 24 years, and I'm 33 years old. So he's been playing Wolverine since I was 9 years old.
And if you look into it, what he has to do to himself to play Wolverine is most people wouldn't be able to do it one time, let alone multiple.
I was just watching something. It was, again, another Graham Norton special of him talking to Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. And he said, this was my first major film. He was talking to Ian McKellen, and he's like, you know what? I showed up on the set the first day. The first day I was ever on the set, I was nervous as all hell. And you walked up to me, and like Ian McKellen was like, oh boy, I was probably just trying to hit on you, right? Because like he's like saying like you're a cute boy. I was just trying to smooth things over and try to work my way with it. And like joking around. But he was like, no, you said something that I've never forgotten. That basically like, do what you are, be in the moment, those types of like whatever he told him, like he was like, but you both were like my heroes and you guys gave me some advice, but I didn't even realize that was his first major movie role too, was Wolverine.
Yeah.
Who'd they take, Doc?
Quinyon Mitchell from
Toledo.
Toledo, yes.
Yeah, so you were excited about this pick? You've heard of him before?
Yeah, I heard that the Eagles were targeting him. We need a corner, and I'm really excited that they drafted a corner.
Hey, do you need a quarterback? We can trade you one.
No, we're good. We're good. We're good in that area. The Eagles also extended AJ Brown tonight for another 3 years, $96 million added to his contract. 3 years, $96 million. So he's going to be with them for the next, I think it said 6 years now that AJ Brown will be here. So the Eagles window, we see what it is. I'm enjoying it while it lasts, man. I've been through some bad teams.
Though? Can they replace the center?
Yes, they can. He's been in training for 2 or 3 years now. So I love Jason Kelce with my life. It's a different Jason Kelce than I've known. Like, I'm not saying the man's changed at all. It is just odd to see Jason Kelce be like a national star when it's like he's kind of been more so local hero for years, turned into national star over the last probably 3 or 4 years. But yeah, it's 32 mil a year from Mark Madden. That's a new name in here. What's going on, Mark?
Yeah, I think I know what it is. What's up, Mark? He's a swim coach down in the Center Grove area. Worked with my wife for a number of years, if that's who I think it is.
Nice. Down in our neck of the woods.
Yeah, but I want to know. I want to know why, like, Adam Parker's throwing out like Eagle signs, like this Louisiana guy.
He's an Eagle fan, I'm pretty sure.
How is he an Eagle fan? Like, you like.
He's got.
Why aren't you a Saints? Why aren't you a Saints guy? Like, I'm a Falcon guy, and I should hate you if you are a Saints guy. But it would make way more sense being a Louisiana guy to like the Aints.
He's got. I think Adam has.
Maybe he got tired of wearing that
the brown
paper sack over his head. I mean, I know they had some good years there with Drew Brees, but
gotcha.
Yeah, and they usually broke the Eagles' hearts during those good years with Drew Brees. I'm probably not going to unbox this tonight now because we're at an hour and 40 minutes into the show. And I mean,
yeah, I meant to grab that Ezra too, but I didn't.
I'll unbox it.
Teenager.
I'll unbox it next week on the show. And hold on. Last 1 minute of the show here. I'll just pull it out of the box.
So while he's cracking that open, Alfie, what are your last thoughts about Bad Batch, about Star Wars, about Phantom Menace? Tales of the Empire.
Oh my gosh, guys. Look at it. It is so cool. This is the best. This packaging is the best, Hasbro. I love my big white blob of mummified Wookiee. It's the best.
It's even like, isn't that one a terrible sculpt anyway, too?
No, this was the second one.
Version.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of the comic book version.
Okay.
They fixed it, so I just got to get my digs in for.
It wasn't a bad sculpt, in all actuality, because it was based on the comics. But it just so happened to come out as the same time as the show. It seemed like it was.
This is so freaking annoying, man. I can't even get this out of here.
Hey, DDoc, we're trying to wrap up the show over here. Alfie, you got any last thoughts?
Like I said, I'm excited. I know I'm going to be heartbroken when the Bad Batch ends. I hope I eat some crow. But then again, like I've said, I'm really excited about the Acolyte because I am ready to go to a different era of Star Wars.
I also like the fact that it's on the dark side as well.
Yes, as Azalea has been telling me for the past few weeks, the dark side is just better.
This blaster is a 10 out of 10. Just so you know.
Yeah, that's a banger.
At least it was black contention in the box, and you didn't get a repackaged one.
It's just the worst unboxing experience you could ever ask for.
Mark says no one makes it out alive. I don't know if he checked in earlier or not, but I'm on the opposite side of that fence, man. I feel like it's just gonna be another ho-hum.
Hate that.
I know, but I feel like that's what's gonna happen. Like I know.
I'm with you 100%.
My spidey senses are tinkling that that's what's gonna happen.
Come on, man.
Ooh. Yeah, that is freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That is an excellent figure. He's beefy, dude. He's big. Continue your story, Brent. I'm sorry.
No, that's all you got. I was gonna what do you got, DDoc? What's your parting shots after talking about Black Chrysanthemum?
Oh man, I'm actually pretty fired up about this.
I'm pretty impressed that you were able to hold it together as much as you were. Early on, I wasn't sure we were going to be able to hold the attention of DDoc with all of the different games and draft going on. It was a rough one to start, so I'll let you finish up.
I can multitask, so I can unbox and talk at the same time. I mean, this gun is his.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I did all right.
Oh, you did fine. I'm just
I know. This gun does not go in his hand very good. I got to look at how he's posed, but man, that gun is freaking huge. Yeah, I'm really.
Doesn't it go across like he's holding it like this?
Like this, right?
Yeah, like he's got both hands on it.
Yeah, I can't get it. I can't get it in his right hand because the fur on his hand, I don't know if you can see it that well, but it's kind of blocking it's kind of blocking it from getting in there, but I can't see that well either. My lights are kind of dim here right now.
Michael Nib seems to think that the Bad Batch will just be the crew sitting around eating shawarma. Spotchka shawarma. We might get some more Mandel mix, right? Or Marta Ord Mandel mix. We got to see Homegirl one more time. We got to see Sid one more time.
Yeah, I agree.
I think she's dead.
I know. What do you got, DDoc?
Yeah,
you can multitask so well.
I just think that I think the episode's going to be a banger. I think it's going to be good, and I think that people are going to die in it. And if they don't, I'm going to be pretty surprised because, I mean, what they're doing is essentially a suicide mission. And for everyone to make it out alive, it almost doesn't even make sense. And, I don't know. I just never felt like we've been working towards a happy ending in this show. Maybe for a couple characters, but I don't know. Unless we're just going to continue this Clones Era storyline with animated shows. So I don't know. I feel like they're going to kind of wrap it up, and I think there's going to be some deaths in it with some of the obvious characters that we know move on not dying in it. But I think the Batch is going to be in a life or death situation where they have to save Omega, and they're going to do whatever they have to do to save her. So those are my thoughts on that. And
to wrap it up, I logged into the Twitter. We got about 145 people watching us on Twitter. Hey guys, jump over to YouTube, like and subscribe on YouTube. Let us know that you like us, that you're listening to us. Help us get up and make popularity in that algorithm. Check it out. We're going to be dropping like shorts of all of our past interviews and past episodes. We're talking the 262 episodes of content out there from Rule of the Galaxy. Make sure you like and subscribe so we know that you are out there and that you like us. Share it and let everybody know about Rule of the Galaxy. But thank you very much for hanging out with us for this long as well.
Yes. And that's what we're really, we're starting to see growth on our YouTube, and it really just pumps us all up, that it's like, we've been putting this out there for a while and we all just have fun doing it, and to see that people are, really kind of jumping in on it and getting on board, especially on YouTube. It's really exciting to see it happening. So, that a lot of that credit goes to Joe starting this off and putting this group together. And, it's something that I enjoy doing every week. I really don't get sick of it. And there you go. I figured it out how to get that gun in his hand.
Nice.
Badass. So that is chapter 262. Chapter 262 of Rule of the Galaxy podcast. I thought we hit a lot of good topics tonight, even though we went a little bit long and we went a little bit into the late night. It was an after dark episode, so sometimes that happens, especially when I'm sitting in the pilot seat, because I'll just jump anywhere and we'll just keep rolling on it. I could even go on to another topic right now for all I know. So chapter 262 of Rule the Galaxy podcast, from me, from Alfie, from Brent. Until next time, may the Force be with you.